What is up, people? Today I get to review The Last Jedi in Blu-ray and 4K, and I got that coming up for you next. So The Last Jedi just came out in Blu-ray and 4K. I'm going to start off with the Blu-ray just because that's where I always start off. This Blu-ray looks incredible. It looks like everything that you wanted this Blu-ray to look like. You know, it is sharp, it is very detailed, and it has a lot of very strong qualities to it. This movie was shot on a lot of different formats. It was shot on 65mm, 35mm, and digitally for a 6.5K resolution that was down mixed to a 4K digital intermediate, and that is a lot to juggle. And sometimes I don't like it when they do that, but it really comes across very strong here and consistent. This is a very consistent Blu-ray, and that is really the highest praise that I can give it. And for that, I feel like this is a reference quality Blu-ray. I give it a 10 out of 10. So getting into the 4K Blu-ray, and the reason that you guys have come here to watch this video, I care more about the 4K, and so do you. This actually comes along with HDR10 with Dolby Vision, and I love when Dolby Vision actually comes on these bigger releases, because you do see it on smaller releases a lot for some reason. And for this Dolby Vision, it looks pretty good. So this is a more lush and a more vibrant looking transfer than the Blu-ray, like we would expect it to be. And with the HDR, that comes across really well. It comes across really sharp for the most part, and that is where I want to get into the different ways that they film this film, and really get into the grainier elements. I really noticed them a lot more in 4K than when they shot digitally, and that is just something that I kind of bumped up against in this 4K presentation. You definitely can tell when they shot on film and when they shot digitally. Along with that, you do get some aliasing here as well, especially when you are in Snoke's, going up the stairs to Snoke's tower. That is definitely a spot where I really noticed it with the bright reds there, and for that, I do feel like this is a flawed transfer that still looks pretty good. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. So next, I do have to get into the audio of The Last Jedi, and you guys won't want to miss it because it is interesting to hear. And I got that coming up for you next. So the audio of The Last Jedi. One thing that Disney likes to do that I specifically don't like is only giving us Dolby Atmos on the 4K version. So to start off with the Blu-ray version, they give us a DTS HD 7.1 mix, and it sounds really good. And I mean really good and really strong. This is a very bold mix that when action comes, it really hits hard, but it sounds very dynamic as well. And the vocals, because this is a very talky movie, and the voice levels are just perfect. And I do feel like this is a really strong DTS HD mix that I got to give a 9 out of 10 to. Now, to get into this Dolby Atmos mix that only comes on the 4K version, I have a problem with a lot of mixes that Disney puts out. And unfortunately, this is one of them. Starting out with what's good, you know, the action is excellent. You know, you get the sub bass from the subwoofer, and that kicks in, and it is really strong. You get a lot of the John Williams score coming through your surrounds, which is really cool, along with the height speakers. And speaking of the height speakers, they do get some action here, but not as much as you would expect. This is a very talky movie. And getting into that talky element, the voice levels are really low here. And it's not like I couldn't understand what people were saying. I just wanted to hear it better. And I feel like it is very toned down here. I don't get amped from this Dolby Atmos mix, and I should. This is Star Wars, and this is Dolby Atmos. They should go hand in hand, and here they don't. Gotta give this a 7 out of 10. Come on, Disney. Come on. Give me a good Dolby Atmos mix like you did at this time last year. So next I gotta get into the special features of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I got that coming up for you next. So special features of The Last Jedi. Getting into the digital download that comes with this disc. This is a Movies Anywhere download. So this is something that Movies Anywhere really does that is really cool, and you can download this and watch it on Vudu and get the same 4K Dolby Vision presentation, and that is something that is really cool, along with the same Dolby Atmos mix. You can download that there too. Now getting into the actual special features, you get a audio commentary with director and writer Rian Johnson, and that is something that I wanted because I wanted to hear his explanation for a lot of things that happened in this movie, and it is interesting to hear in this commentary track. But he also talks about a lot of his involvement with the writing process. I feel like this is a very, very strong audio commentary track that I actually learned a lot about Rian Johnson listening to. There is also a featurette that goes into the directing of The Last Jedi and how Rian Johnson really took that role, and the production too, but it really focuses on Rian Johnson himself. That actually is pretty interesting. It is very lengthy, to be honest with you. There is a scene breakdown featurette that goes into 3 separate scenes and how they film them. You get 3 other really good featurettes as well, along with some deleted scenes. This is a very strong effort in special features on this release, but unfortunately they are all on the Blu-ray. None of them are on the 4K disc. That's something that really bugs me, but unfortunately it's something that's an industry standard, and for that I do have to give this a 7 out of 10. I would have given it an 8 if some of them were on this 4K disc. So next I do have to get into my last looks and my overall scores for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I got that coming up for you next. Star Wars: The Last Jedi has become one of the more divisive films of last year. Normally, when we're talking about a divisive film, I usually land on the side of not liking it that much. Here, I actually liked what they did in this movie. I am not so tied into Star Wars canon that I don't want it to be changed, or I don't want it to be challenged. This is a movie that really wants to challenge that and really wants to give you a unique take on the franchise. And I feel like in time, more people will champion this film as one of the movies that really stands out in the Star Wars series. And if you didn't watch my video review for The Last Jedi when the movie came out in theaters, I gave it a 9 out of 10. And when you add up all of my scores for these 2 discs, The Blu-ray gets a 34 out of 40. That is pretty high. And the 4K actually gets a 31 out of 40, just because the video presentation and the audio presentation were not as solid. So next, I do promise that I have to get into the Shape of Water and all of the Academy Award films. Then I have to go back to Christopher Nolan to finish that off. And then, you know, I got the Hulk coming out in a couple of weeks. I have a lot coming out for you guys, so subscribe so you know when those videos come out. I got a ton of them coming to you guys. And if you have suggestions on things that you guys want me to review, comment below. Let me know about that stuff so I can get it to you guys. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. You guys are awesome, and I will see all of you next time.